And so without further ado, I'm going to announce our speaker so that we can have enough time for him to talk. You'll have time for questions and answers. And we know some of our students can't stay out too late. So please help me welcome Dr. Michael Pateman from the Antiquities Monuments and Museum Corporation. And his topic tonight is Discover the Bahamas Again, Reconstructing Lucayan Lifeways. So please, let's give Dr. Pateman a very warm welcome. There's just one more thing I'd like to mention is we'd like to thank CIBC next door for allowing us to park. That is a wonderful, wonderful gift. And we just thank them for that. They don't have to do it, but we truly appreciate on all the years they've been allowing us to park. Here's Dr. Pateman.
Thank you, Ms. Major. While we're waiting for the PowerPoint to go up, so I want to just give you the background on this. We've launched a new project, basically re-looking at the Lucayans in the Bahamas. And so this PowerPoint, and so when I say we, this is a combination of myself, Dr. Bill Keegan from University of Florida. We're really starting over. And so recently Bill Keegan came up and gave a presentation to the College of the University of the Bahamas to really tell them why we've started over. So now I'm giving a presentation to sort of try and put my head around it. So I'm going to say some things, I'm going to contradict myself, I'm going to contradict a lot of what you've learned in the past, but then I'll show you why. So hopefully I did a good job in putting this together because it's been a very hectic few weeks. So basically my presentation, I'll start off on what is archaeology because for some people this may be the first time hearing about archaeology, so just wanted to give you a brief background. Then I'll give you a brief background on what we know or we think we know about the Bahamas. So then I'll talk about the pre-Columbian Bahamas. And once again, I'll lay out what we know. Some of it will contradict what you've learned, and some of it I'll contradict myself while saying it. And then I'll actually talk about our new project, the Bahamas Colonization Project. This is where we're reevaluating the Lucayans and the whole experience of Lucayans in the Bahamas. And then we'll do a review of what we know, or what we know after this presentation, which will probably change when we start looking at the data. All right, so what is archaeology? Well, archaeology is the scientific study of past human cultures. And how do we do this? We basically look at the things they left behind, so, or the places they lived, and these are sites and artifacts. A lot of times when I say I'm an archaeologist in the Bahamas, I get this question, well, do you study dinosaurs? One, archaeologists don't study dinosaurs, and two, there were no dinosaurs in the Bahamas, so even if I did study dinosaurs, I wouldn't have been able to do it here. So also, we don't look for just pretty or valuable objects. People think I walk around looking for something pretty or valuable, pick it up, and that's what I do. We don't spend all our time digging. A lot of times, we like to say, we spend one day in the field, that's another week in the lab, and then that's another week of writing up. So for every day in the field, that's at least 2 weeks of work I've created. And I've created a lot of work for myself that I'm still trying to catch up on. And then one of the most important things is, we don't buy, sell, or put prices on artifacts. I get a lot of questions from people who know me, oh, do you know how much this is worth? No, I don't know how much it's worth. I could Google it, and so can you. So we don't buy them, we don't sell it, and I can't put a price on artifacts. That's just not what we do. All right, so what do we know about the Bahamas? And some people in here will know better, I hope especially the students. A lot of people, if you ask them, who were the first Bahamians, 9 times out of 10, the word Arawak will come out of their mouth. They'll say the first Bahamians were Arawaks. Anyway, I'll get into that a little bit. I asked them, well, how did these Arawaks come to the Bahamas? Why did they come here? And 9 times out of 10, and literally I just gave 2 presentations at UB last week, And this is the answers they gave me. So they came here because they were running away from the Caribs. This is what we know. The next question I like to ask is, well, tell me something about these first Bahamians, something about their nature. And I can pretty much guarantee you I will get this answer. They were peaceful. So, in general, this is what we knew about, or know about the first Bahamians. They were Arawaks. They came to the Bahamas because they were running away from the Caribs, and they were peaceful. This is what we know, but this is all wrong. None of this is right, and I'll get into that a little bit. All right, so I'm not going to get into migration into the Bahamas, but I'm going to give you a brief overview. So, and this is always changing too. I'm going to show you later on a different map on what we used to believe, but this is what we believe now. Basically, migration through the Caribbean has been an exchange. So we know about 5,000 years ago, there was some movement of people from the Mexico area, Yucatan Peninsula, possibly Belize, into the Caribbean. And we know they went into possibly Cuba and into Hispaniola area. We also know about 2,000 years ago, we had a migration of people from the Orinoco River Valley in Venezuela, and these were Arawak-speaking tribes. They moved quickly through the Left Antilles into the Greater Antilles, and then eventually around 700 AD, we had a migration of people from Cuba, Hispaniola, into the Bahamas. One of the questions we always get asked is, well, when did these first Bahamians, these Arawaks, or as most of you know, the Lucayans, when did they come to the Bahamas? And I couldn't hide that because I actually called it Lucayan Lifeways in my presentation. I wasn't supposed to do that. But so when did the Lucayans come to the Bahamas? Well, what we know is that we have found the earliest sites in the Bahamas to be about 700 AD. So that's about 1,300 years ago. But it's interesting because all of these early sites are this 700 AD period. What we know so far, because archaeologists were always going out there looking for more things. The best archaeologists actually look for somebody to tell them, you're wrong, it's not that, and this is why you're wrong. I love it when somebody can prove to me that I'm wrong, because now I have to go out and prove that they're wrong. It's the best part of the field.
Oh, they're right.
Oh, they're right. Because, so there's a debate in the Bahamas for years on did the Lucayans come from Hispaniola or Cuba. My partner in this research, Bill Keegan, used to think it was Hispaniola. Another archaeologist thought it was Cuba. Bill Keegan now agrees that it's Cuba, but he said they were wrong on how they came into the Bahamas. So we agree it's Cuba, but we don't agree on the way. So I enjoy it. It's fun. All right, so we have the Coralie site, and this is in Grand Turk. And when I talk about the Bahamas, I'm talking about the archipelago. This is from Grand Bahama in the north, Turks and Caicos in the south, all the islands. So in Grand Turk, the oldest archaeological site in the Bahamas is called Coralie. It's located on the North Creek at the northwest end of Grand Turk, and it's the oldest site in the Bahama archipelago. It's also one of the best, it is the best example of a colony from Hispaniola anywhere in the Caribbean. Now, you already heard me say that Lucayans came from Cuba, so I told you I was going to contradict myself. This site, though, was not continuously occupied. So we know about 1100 AD, they left this site for whatever reason. And it seems that this set of people just left the Turks and Caicos Islands. Maybe it was because the Lucayans ran them out, who knows, but we know these people left. We also know, going back to this 700 AD, that so we have 700 in the southern Bahamas, that the earliest evidence of human occupation in the central and northern Bahamas is also about 700 AD. And this was in Preacher's Cave, North Eleuthera. Well, everybody knows that Preacher's Cave is the home of the Eleutherian adventurers, but we also know it as the home of the Lucayans. So on the outside of Preacher's Cave, we found a circular hole, a trident shell that had a circular hole cut out of it. So this was definitely man-modified. It looked like a Lucayan anchor. And so we dated it. and that ranged to about 700 AD. But the criticism of that would be, well, it's a shell. They could have found that shell on the beach. It could have been there for hundreds of years, and then they decided to use it as an anchor. But also, we have a more certain date from inside the cave. We have some burials in Preacher's Cave, not just the Lutheran adventurers, but the Lucayans. And one of those burials dates to about 800 AD. So this is definite proof here. We had people here in the central Bahamas, 800 AD. Now, if we look at the northern Bahamas, we have a burial, and you're going to hear me, when I talk about Lucayans, a lot of my references will go back to the burials. My speciality is human bones. I look at burials. I love bones. I study bones. It's who I am, what I do. But I'm not bones. Some of my family will make fun of me and say, you wouldn't like it if someone dug up your bones. And I said, oh yeah, they could dig up my bones. In fact, I want to dig up some of my ancestors' bones because I want to get a better understanding of where they come from. And one of my cousins is in the audience, so now you know, Carl, I want to dig up James Campbell. All right, so we know that about 1000 AD, we have a burial in Sawmill Sink in Abercote. So we have definite proof of human occupation, Lucayans, in the northern Bahamas at 1,000 years ago. But what's interesting is if we take cores of a lot of the lakes and ponds in Abercote, we can tell that there's human modification of the landscapes as early as 800 AD. So the Lucayans were doing something in Abercote. We haven't found enough evidence yet to say they settled here, but we know they were there, they were exploiting resources. We're hoping that our new project can help us find more information. All right, so I talked about Preacher's Cave and the burial. Well, Preacher's Cave, the study there started because we were looking for information on the Lutheran adventurers. We were trying to get more information about who they were. The historic documents only give you so much, especially from the 1650s. But what we found was that Preacher's Cave is an incredibly important Lucayan site. And so we first came across this burial. And this is a Lucayan burial. This person is buried in what we call the flex position. So that means knees are bent, hands across the waist, and they are facing north. And this is a female. Nice burial. Nothing special about it. We see this all the time. But if we continue to excavate in the area, we then came across this burial. And this is, if anybody knows bones, the first thing you can see is that this person is face down. At the top there you see those bones in the back. That's his shoulder blades. So this individual is face down. And the other interesting thing is that the skull is missing. We don't think the skull is missing because somebody looted and took the skull away. We think the Lucayans took the skull. We know in Cuba and so forth, they did a lot of modification of bones after death. Sometimes Columbus reports in Cuba that he saw skulls of people in their home, in someone's home. So maybe this person's skull was taken to someone's home. Who knows? The skull was missing. So this is fascinating, and I'm just showing you the beginning reasons why this is fascinating. I'll actually get into this one a little bit more later. Then we found a third burial where, and this is all in the same area. This is another flex position burial. Unfortunately, when we did shovel tests in the cave, we went right through the pelvis, so the pelvis was missing. But this person was, oops, that's my phone, let me turn that off. Sorry. This person was flexed in this position facing south, but looking away from the other burial. But what was really interesting is we found another one of those trident shells right in the front of this person, and once again, a hole was cut out, but not as an anchor, but a hole was also cut at the mouth of the shell. So some people believe that this may have been a horn. Some people, I believe it was a pipe. we're still trying to figure it out. But what was also interesting was that there was a whole cluster of shells behind this individual. And these are the Tellurian sunrise shells, Tellina radiata. If you go out on the beach and you pick up a shell with a nice sunshine, like a sun motif on it, the yellow with the pink, that's those shells. And there was a whole cluster of them in the back, and also a bone pin. So this was probably worn in his head, and a hairnet of some kind with the pin to keep it up.